A single collision on a rain-soaked Chicago street. A waitress with nothing left to lose. A mafia boss everyone fears to cross. One moment of brutal honesty that changes everything. She thought pulling the trigger would save his life. She didn't know it would chain her to his world forever. This is the story of Lena Carter and Adrian Viscari, where power meets desperation, and love is the most dangerous gamble of all. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. But that's it. The rain came down like punishment. Lena Carter clutched her coat tighter, shoulders hunched against the downpour as she hurried along West Monroe. Her sneakers splashed through puddles she couldn't afford to replace, the duct tape on the left sole already peeling away. Midnight shift at Murphy's Diner had run late. Again. And her tips barely covered cab fare, let alone rent due in 3 days. The sidewalk was empty. Smart people were home, dry, warm. Lena was none of those things. She turned the corner too fast, head down, and slammed straight into someone. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. Strong hands caught her before she could fall, steadying her with a grip that felt expensive somehow. Firm, confident, unhurried. "Sorry, I'm so sorry." She looked up. The man staring back at her didn't look inconvenienced. He looked curious. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair slicked back from a face that belonged in old paintings of emperors or tyrants. Sharp cheekbones, olive skin, eyes so dark they were nearly black. His suit probably cost more than her entire year's rent, custom tailored. No umbrella, but the rain seemed to avoid him somehow, like even the weather knew better. "You hurt?" His voice was low, measured. Not concerned exactly, but not dismissive either. No, I'm fine." Lena stepped back, embarrassed. "I wasn't watching where I—" "Neither was I." He studied her face with an intensity that made her stomach tighten. Not threatening, but thorough, like he was cataloging every detail. "You work nearby?" "Murphy's, the diner on Clark." She didn't know why she answered. Something about his stillness made lying feel pointless. "Long shift?" "Double. Cover for Jenny. She's got the flu." He nodded slowly. Behind him, a black town car idled at the curb, headlights cutting through the rain. A driver stood beside the rear door, watching them with the stillness of a trained guard dog. "You should get home," the man said. "Streets aren't safe this late." Lena almost laughed. "Safer than my apartment." The words slipped out before she could stop them. His eyebrow lifted fractionally. "Bad neighborhood? Bad everything." She shrugged, tired enough to be honest. "But rent's almost affordable, so—" He reached into his jacket, slowly, like he knew the motion might startle her, and pulled out a slim black wallet. From it, he produced a card. Plain white, heavy stock. Just a name and a phone number. Adrian Viscari. Nothing else. No title, no company. "You ever need work that pays better than Murphy's," he said, "call that number." Lena stared at the card, then at him. "What kind of work?" "The kind where showing up on time matters more than a college degree." His mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. "You strike me as someone who shows up." "I don't—" She hesitated. "I don't even know you." "No," he agreed. "You don't." The driver cleared his throat softly. Adrian glanced back, nodded, then returned his attention to Lena. "Think about it." He stepped toward the car, then paused. "What's your name?" "Lena. Lena Carter." "Lena." He said it carefully, like he was testing the weight of it. "Get home safe." The town car pulled away, taillights dissolving into the rain. Lena stood there, water streaming down her face, staring at the card in her hand until the ink started to blur. She walked the remaining 8 blocks to her studio apartment, climbed 4 flights of stairs that smelled like mildew and old cigarettes, and locked herself inside. The card went on the bathroom counter, propped against her toothbrush. She didn't sleep that night. Morning came gray and hostile. Lena showed up to Murphy's at 6 a.m. for the breakfast rush, still thinking about the man in the rain. Adrian Viscari. The name sat in her head like a stone she couldn't swallow. "You look like hell," Tina said, refilling the coffee station. She'd worked at Murphy's longer than anyone. had the permanent slouch and nicotine rasp to prove it. Didn't sleep. You sick? No, just... Lena tied her apron. Long night. The morning passed in the usual blur of burnt toast, impatient customers, and coffee refills that never ended. She was wiping down booth 3 when Carl, the day manager, called her into the back office. Carl was 50-something, balding, perpetually sweating. He'd hired Lena 8 months ago when she'd been desperate enough to work for minimum wage and accept being paid under the table. No benefits, no security, no questions asked about her lack of references. He didn't look at her when she walked in. Lena, we gotta talk. Her stomach dropped. What's wrong? Corporate's cracking down. Wants everything by the book. He scratched his neck, still avoiding eye contact. I can't keep you on, not without proper paperwork, taxes, all that. I can get paperwork. It's done. He finally met her eyes, and she saw he'd already made peace with this. I'm sorry, today's your last shift. The words didn't land right. Lena stood there, apron strings cutting into her waist, trying to process. Carl, please, I need this job. I'm 3 days from eviction. I know, I'm sorry. He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. Here's what I owe you for this week. It's not much. She took the envelope. It felt obscenely light. You're a good worker, Carl said, like that mattered now. You'll land somewhere better. Lena walked out of the office, untied her apron, and left through the back door before Tina could ask questions she didn't want to answer. The envelope held $240. Rent was $800. She walked. No destination, just motion. Her phone buzzed twice, texts from her landlord she didn't open. The rain had stopped, replaced by that particular Chicago cold that seeped through every layer of clothing. By noon, she was sitting on a bench in Grant Park, staring at families who looked warm and fed and safe. The card was still in her pocket, edges bent from where she'd gripped it too hard. Adrian Vescari. She pulled out her phone, stared at the number. This was insane. She didn't know this man, didn't know what kind of work he meant. Every instinct screamed this was a terrible idea. But terrible was relative when you were counting down to homelessness. She dialed. 2 rings. Then a voice she recognized, low, unhurried. Adrian Vescari. This is Lena Carter. We met last night. You gave me your card. Silence. Then, I remember. You said to call if I needed work. I did. Well, she swallowed. I need work. Another pause. She could hear something in the background, voices, movement, the muted sounds of business being conducted. Where are you right now? Grant Park, North End. Stay there. Someone will pick you up in 20 minutes. Black Mercedes. License plate ending in 447. Wait, 20 minutes, Lena. The line went dead. She sat there, phone pressed to her ear, heart hammering against her ribs. This was a mistake. Had to be. She should leave, go home, figure something else out. But there was nothing else. 19 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The rear window descended. Lena Carter? The driver was a woman, early 30s, professional in a way that made Lena acutely aware of her coffee-stained jeans. Yes. Get in. The interior smelled like leather and something subtle she couldn't name. Expensive cologne, maybe? The seats were heated. Lena's wet sneakers left marks on the floor mat. They drove north, away from the park, toward the lake. The buildings got taller, shinier. They turned onto a private drive that ended at a high-rise wrapped in glass and steel. 40th floor, the driver said as Lena climbed out. Elevator's keyed. Someone's waiting. The lobby was all marble and modern art that probably cost more than most people made in a year. A security guard nodded her toward the elevator without asking questions. The ride-up was silent, except for the mechanical hum. Her reflection in the polished doors looked small, out of place. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan. The furniture was minimal, expensive, arranged like each piece had been placed with intent. A chandelier hung from the vaulted ceiling, not ostentatious, just present, like wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Adrian stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, watching the water. Lena. He turned. In daylight, he looked even more dangerous. Thank you for coming. I don't understand what's happening. I'm offering you a job, personal assistant. You'd manage my schedule, handle communications, coordinate logistics. He crossed to a bar cart, poured 2 glasses of water without asking if she wanted one. Hours vary. Some days routine, others unpredictable. Pay is $5,000 a week, cash. Lena's brain stuttered. 5,000 plus housing if you need it. Medical coverage, discretion is mandatory. He handed her the water. You'd be dealing with sensitive information. Confidentiality isn't optional. She drank automatically, trying to process. Why me? Because last night, you told me the truth when you didn't have to. Most people lie to me or tell me what they think I want to hear. He leaned against the window frame, studying her with that same unnerving focus. You didn't know who I was, didn't care, just spoke plainly. I still don't know who you are. Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe. You will. But that's part of the job, learning to navigate my world without flinching. And if I flinch, then you're honest about it. He set his glass down. I don't need another yes man, Lena. I have a dozen of those. I need someone who'll tell me when I'm wrong, when a plan's flawed, when I'm about to make a mistake. His eyes locked on hers. Think you can do that? Every rational thought told her to walk away. This was too much money for too vague a job description. Men like Adrian Vescari, men with penthouses and drivers and that kind of authority, didn't just hand out opportunities without strings. But she thought about her landlord's texts, the empty envelope from Carl, the studio apartment with heat that barely worked. What's the catch? The catch, Adrian said slowly, is that my life isn't conventional. My business interests aren't conventional. You'll see things, hear things, meet people who exist outside normal society. He paused. You'll need to be comfortable with moral ambiguity. Illegal? Sometimes. No hesitation. Not always, but I won't pretend I operate entirely within the law. Lena should have left. Should have thanked him politely, declined, found some other way to survive. Instead, she said, "When do I start?" Adrian smiled then, really smiled, and it transformed his entire face, made him look younger, almost human. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll have someone bring you a phone, apartment key if you need it, and information about the people you'll be working with. He extended his hand. Welcome aboard, Lena Carter. She shook it. His grip was warm, firm, absolute. As the elevator descended, Lena stared at her reflection and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. The phone arrived at 6 a.m. Lena had spent the night in her apartment, half convinced she'd imagined the entire conversation. But the knock came right on schedule. A different driver, male this time, who handed her a sleek black smartphone and a manila envelope without a word. Inside the envelope, an apartment key with an address in Lincoln Park, a health insurance card in her name, and a single-page document outlining her employment terms. $5,000 weekly. Confidentiality clause. At-will employment. No contract. Just a handshake and trust. The phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Car downstairs. Address is 1823 North Burling. Your new place. Move in whenever. See you at 9. The Lincoln Park apartment was 17 blocks from her current studio. Lena walked it, unwilling to take the car for something so short. She needed to think, needed the cold air to confirm this was real. 1823 North Burling was a renovated brownstone, 3 stories, with actual trees lining the street. The kind of neighborhood where people walk dogs that cost more than used cars. Her key opened the second-floor unit. 2 bedrooms. Hardwood floors. Kitchen with appliances that looked like they'd never been used. Windows that didn't rattle. Heat that worked. Furniture already in place, not flashy, but solid, real. Lena stood in the living room, coat still on, and felt something crack in her chest. She'd been sleeping on a mattress on the floor for 8 months. This had a bed, with a frame, and sheets that smelled like lavender. She sat on the couch, actual cushions, not springs poking through fabric, and let herself breathe. At 8:30, she changed into the cleanest clothes she owned, pulled her hair into something resembling professionalism, and took the car to Adrian's building. The same elevator, same penthouse. But this time, 3 other people were waiting. Lena Carter. The woman who spoke was mid-40s, elegant in a charcoal suit, with silver hair cut precisely at her shoulders. I'm Margot Shaw. I handle Adrian's legal affairs. We'll be working closely. Margot's handshake was brief, assessing. The man beside her was younger, maybe 30, with the build of someone who'd played college football and maintained the training. Vincent Cross, security. You need anything? You come to me. His handshake lasted a second longer than necessary, like he was measuring her strength. The third person was a kid, couldn't be older than 25, wearing a hoodie and expensive sneakers. Eli Park, tech, phones, computers, anything digital. He didn't offer a handshake, just a quick nod. Adrian emerged from an office off the main room. Good. Everyone's here. He gestured to the conference table. Sit. They sat. Adrian remained standing, hands clasped behind his back. Lena's my new assistant. She handles my schedule, communications, anything I delegate. You treat her requests as mine. Clear? Margot nodded immediately. Vincent took a beat longer, still sizing Lena up. Eli was already back on his phone. Lena, Adrian continued, these three are your primary contacts. Margot for legal questions, Vincent for security concerns, Eli for anything technical. He pulled out a tablet, slid it across the table to her. Your first task. This is my schedule for the next 2 weeks. I need you to consolidate the meetings, eliminate redundancies, and flag anything that conflicts with the Thompson acquisition. Lena picked up the tablet. The schedule was chaos. Triple booked time slots, meetings with no locations listed, names with no context. What's the Thompson acquisition? Margot answered. Adrian's purchasing a logistics company. Shipping, warehousing, distribution. The owner's dragging his feet on final terms. Why? Because, Adrian said, he's afraid of who I am. There it was. The thing no one had said directly. Lena looked at him. And who are you? Vincent made a sound that might have been a laugh. Eli glanced up from his phone. Margot's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Adrian walked to the window, hands still clasped. I run an organization that operates in industries most people pretend don't exist. Protection, acquisitions, enforcement. Some of it's legal. Most of it exists in gray areas. All of it requires control. He turned back. People call me a lot of things. Most of them are technically accurate. You're Mafia, Lena said. I prefer organizational leadership, but yes, that's the common term. The room went quiet. Lena set the tablet down. You could have mentioned that yesterday. Would you have taken the job? She thought about it. Probably not. Exactly. Adrian crossed back to the table, pulled out the chair beside her, and sat. I need someone who'll see me as a person first, a reputation second. Everyone in this room has history with me, expectations, loyalties built over years. You don't. You're starting fresh. That's valuable. I'm also terrified. Good. He leaned back. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you alive. His expression softened fractionally. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal, Lena. Your job is administrative. Logistics. You manage my time, not my business. And if I want out, then you walk away. No strings. He paused. But I think you'll stay. Why? Because you're curious. And because you've got nowhere else to go. He stood, smoothing his jacket. Prove me wrong if you want. Door's always unlocked. He left the room. Margot followed immediately, already on her phone. Vincent gave Lena a long look, then nodded once and disappeared. Eli stayed, still scrolling his phone. He's not what people think, Eli said quietly. Lena looked at him. What do you mean? Adrian, everyone assumes he's just another thug with a nice suit, but he's trying to change things, clean things up. Eli finally met her eyes. It's dangerous work. People don't like change. Are you warning me? I'm saying keep your eyes open. He stood, pocketed his phone. And don't trust anyone who tells you they're on your side. In this world, sides shift. He left. Lena sat alone in the conference room, staring at the tablet full of Adrian's impossible schedule. Then she got to work. Gosh, the first week was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Adrian's world moved at a speed Lena hadn't known existed. Meetings that shifted locations 3 times before they happened. Phone calls in languages she didn't recognize. People appearing and disappearing from his schedule with zero notice. She learned quickly Vincent's security sweeps weren't optional. Margot's legal reviews could delay deals by days. Eli's technical paranoia, encrypted phones, scrambled emails, burner laptops, wasn't excessive. It was necessary. And Adrian himself was a study in contradictions. He could spend an hour on the phone negotiating shipping routes with the patience of a kindergarten teacher, then turn around and demolish someone's argument in 3 sentences flat. He remembered names, details, birthdays of people's kids, but he also made decisions that ended careers, shut down businesses, relocated families without visible remorse. "You're staring," Adrian said one afternoon. They were in his office, Lena reviewing contract revisions while he worked through a stack of financial reports. She hadn't realized she'd been watching him. "Sorry, I'm just trying to figure you out." "Any luck?" "Not really." He smiled without looking up. "Good. The day I'm predictable is the day I'm vulnerable. Is that what this is about? Control? Survival?" He set down his pen, finally meeting her eyes. "I inherited this organization from my father. He built it on fear, violence, exploitation. I'm trying to rebuild it into something sustainable, legal income streams, legitimate investments, infrastructure that doesn't rely on breaking bones." "Why?" "Because I'm tired." He stood, moved to the window, his default position when conversations got personal. Tired of cleaning up messes. Tired of watching good people get destroyed because they're loyal to a system that's fundamentally broken. He glanced back. "I want to build something that lasts. That means evolving past the old ways. And people resist that. Violently." Lena absorbed that. "Is that why you need Vincent, the security?" "Vincent keeps me alive long enough to finish what I started." Adrian's jaw tightened. "There are people within my own organization who think I've gone soft, that trying to legitimize makes me weak. They're waiting for an opening." "To do what?" "To remove me and go back to the old ways." He returned to his desk, but didn't sit. "That's why discretion matters, Lena. Why everything you see, everything you hear stays contained. Information is ammunition in this world." She thought about Eli's warning. "Don't trust anyone who tells you they're on your side." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you asked." Adrian's expression was unreadable. "And because if you're going to be in my life, you need to understand the stakes." "I'm your assistant." "You're more than that." He said it simply, like stating a fact. Whether you realize it yet or not, the words sat heavy between them. Lena's phone buzzed, a reminder about his 6 p.m. meeting. She stood, grateful for the interruption. "Car's waiting downstairs. You've got Harrison at 6, Delgado at 7:30. "Cancel Delgado. He's stalling, and I'm done waiting." Adrian grabbed his jacket. "Move it to next week, same time. If he cancels again, we're done negotiating." "Got it." They rode the elevator down in silence. The tension from upstairs lingered, unspoken things filling the space between them. "Lena," Adrian's voice was quiet. "You're doing good work. Better than I expected." "Thanks. I mean it. You've brought order to chaos. That's rare." The elevator doors opened. Vincent was waiting, as always, scanning the lobby with the alertness of someone who expected threats. Adrian started toward the car, then stopped, turned back. "Dinner tomorrow. Just us. There's a restaurant in River North I want to try." Lena blinked. "Is that a meeting?" "No, it's dinner." Something flickered in his expression. "Say no if you want, but I'd like the company." He left before she could answer. Vincent raised an eyebrow. "You gonna make the man wait?" "I don't." Lena shook her head. "This isn't part of the job." "Nothing about this job is what you signed up for." Vincent's tone wasn't unkind. "But he doesn't ask unless he means it. Think about that." The car pulled away. Lena stood in the lobby, phone in hand, trying to decide if she'd just been asked on a date by a Mafia boss. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. 8 p.m. tomorrow. Dress comfortable. She typed back. "I'll be there." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "Good." The restaurant was small, tucked into a side street most people missed. No sign outside, just a red door and a doorman who nodded at Adrian like he was expected. Inside was all low lighting and brick walls, tables spaced far enough apart that conversation stayed private. Maybe 20 seats total, the kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. "Mr. Viscari." The host, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, smiled genuinely. Your usual table? Please, Rosa. They were led to a corner booth away from windows. Vincent took a seat at the bar, close enough to intervene, far enough to maintain the illusion of privacy. Adrian ordered wine without looking at the menu. You trust me? With wine? Lena slid into the booth. Sure. With anything else? She considered that. I'm still deciding. He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound warm and unexpected. Fair. The wine came. Red, rich, probably expensive. Lena wasn't a wine person, but even she could tell this was several steps above anything she'd tasted before. Tell me something true, Adrian said. About what? Anything. Something I don't know. Lena swirled the wine, watching it catch the light. I dropped out of college my sophomore year. Full scholarship to Northwestern. Lasted 3 semesters before my mom got sick. Spent 2 years taking care of her, working whatever jobs I could find that let me keep flexible hours. She died anyway. Cancer. She sipped the wine. After that, I just drifted. Couldn't go back to school, couldn't afford to start over, so I waited tables and pretended I had a plan. Adrian listened without interrupting, without the polite platitudes people usually offered. That's why you understood, he said finally. When I asked about bad neighborhoods, bad everything, you've lived it. Different kind of bad than what you deal with. Bad's bad, Lena. It just wears different clothes. He leaned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about your mother. Thanks. The food came, small plates, things she couldn't identify, but tasted incredible. They ate, talked about nothing important. Books they'd read, movies they'd hated, the specific kind of cold that only Chicago managed in February. It felt normal, dangerously normal. Can I ask you something? Lena set down her fork. Always. Why me? Really, there have to be 100 people more qualified, more experienced, who actually know how your world works. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. You remember what you said? That night in the rain? I said a lot of things. You said bad everything. No hesitation, no embarrassment, just honesty. He met her eyes. Everyone else in my life has an agenda. They want power, money, protection, revenge. They see me as a tool to get what they need. His voice dropped. You didn't see me as anything. You just saw a guy in a suit who asked if you were hurt. That's worth more than experience. Something in Lena's chest tightened. I'm still figuring out who you are. Good. Don't stop. He signaled for the check. The people who think they've got me figured out are the ones who end up disappointed. Outside, the cold was brutal. Vincent brought the car around while Adrian and Lena waited under the awning. Thank you, Lena said. For dinner, for... She gestured vaguely. All of this. You've earned it. Adrian's breath misted in the air. And Lena? Tomorrow's going to be complicated. I've got a meeting with some people who aren't happy about the direction I'm taking things. I need you there, taking notes, observing. You'll hear things that'll make you uncomfortable. How uncomfortable? Very. But I need someone in that room who isn't invested in the outcome. Someone who'll tell me the truth about what they saw. He looked at her directly. Can you do that? Every instinct said no. Said this was too much, too fast, too dangerous. But Lena thought about the apartment in Lincoln Park. The bed with real sheets, the job that paid in 1 week what she used to make in 2 months. She thought about Adrian standing in the rain, asking if she was hurt. I can do that, she said. The car pulled up. Vincent opened the door, and Adrian gestured for Lena to get in first. As they drove through Chicago's night streets, Lena watched the city blur past and wondered when exactly she'd stopped being afraid of Adrian Viscari and started being afraid of how much she was beginning to trust him. Tomorrow, she'd find out what trust cost in his world. Tonight, she let herself believe it might be worth the price. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. in a warehouse on the south side. Lena spent the morning reviewing files Margot had sent over, background on the people who'd be in the room. Names she'd never heard, faces that looked ordinary in their ID photos, but carried reputations that made her hands shake as she read. Marco Santini, Adrian's second-in-command, ran the protection operations. 52, widowed, 3 daughters in private schools. The file noted he'd been with Adrian's father for 20 years before Adrian took over. James Reeves, distribution networks, shipping routes, former military, dishonorable discharge for reasons the file didn't specify, loyal to profit more than people. Yuki Tanaka, financial operations, money movement, quiet, precise, dangerous when crossed. The file had a note in Margot's handwriting, watches everything, trusts no one. And finally, David Chen, youngest of the group at 38, controlled the South Side territories. The file's last line made Lena's stomach turn. Openly questions Adrian's new direction. Consider him hostile. You ready for this? Vincent appeared in her doorway at the Lincoln Park apartment. She'd been staying there for a week now, still not used to having space to breathe. No. Lena closed the laptop. But I'm going anyway. Good answer. He tossed her something, a small black device, rectangular about the size of a car key fob. Panic button. You press that. I come running. Don't hesitate if things feel wrong. She slipped it into her jacket pocket. Things already feel wrong. Then you're paying attention. Vincent's expression was serious. Stay close to Adrian. Don't engage with anyone unless he signals it's okay. And if shooting starts, you hit the floor and stay there. Jesus, Vincent. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to keep you alive. He held the door open. Let's go. The warehouse was exactly what Lena expected. Concrete floors, high ceilings, the smell of oil and rust. 2 black SUVs were already parked inside when they arrived. Men in dark suits stood at intervals, hands resting near concealed weapons. Adrian was talking with Margot near a makeshift conference table, just a sheet of plywood laid across sawhorses, folding chairs arranged around it. He looked up when Lena entered, gave a slight nod. You brought the assistant. Marco Santini's voice carried across the warehouse. He was shorter than Lena expected, stocky, with silver hair and eyes that cataloged everything. This a business meeting or a social call, Adrian? Lena's here to take notes. Adrian's tone was even. That a problem? Depends on what she does with those notes. She works for me. What she does with anything is my concern, not yours. Adrian gestured to the table. We starting, or are you going to waste time on introductions? Marco smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Let's start. They took seats. Lena pulled out her tablet, fingers hovering over the screen, trying to look professional while her heart hammered against her ribs. James Reeves spoke first. The Thompson acquisition. You've been negotiating for 3 months. I'm hearing Thompson's ready to walk because you won't guarantee his people keep their jobs. That's right, Adrian said. That's a problem. We need that distribution network. You're letting personal ethics interfere with business. I'm letting long-term strategy guide short-term decisions. Adrian leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. Thompson's people are good at what they do. Firing them to install our own creates disruption, resentment, potential security risks. Keeping them maintains continuity. It also maintains witnesses, David Chen said. He was younger than his photo suggested, with nervous energy that manifested in constant movement, fingers drumming, leg bouncing. People who know exactly how things used to run, who might not appreciate how we run things. We're not running things the old way anymore, Adrian said flatly. That's the point. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Explain that. Marco's voice was quiet, which somehow made it more threatening. The old way was extortion, violence, burning bridges to make quick money. It worked for a while. Then it didn't. Too much attention, too many enemies, too many variables we couldn't control. Adrian's gaze swept the table. I'm building something sustainable. Legal fronts that generate real income, legitimate businesses that don't require constant enforcement. It's slower, but it lasts. It's weak, David said. You're letting opportunities pass because you're worried about optics, about how things look to people who will never respect us anyway. I'm worried about survival. Adrian's patience was wearing thin. Lena could hear it in the slight edge to his words. Every bust, every federal investigation, every news story about organized crime makes our lives harder. Going legitimate makes us invisible. That's the goal. Yuki Tanaka spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, precise. The financials support Adrian's approach. Legal businesses generated 40% more revenue last quarter than our traditional operations, with significantly less risk exposure. Revenue isn't respect, Marco said. Your father built this organization on fear. People knew crossing him meant consequences. Now they're starting to wonder if crossing you means anything at all. Adrian's jaw tightened. My father's dead. His methods died with him. Maybe they shouldn't have. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lena's fingers froze on the tablet. She could feel the tension radiating from Adrian, could see Vincent's hand moving fractionally closer to his weapon. You have something you want to say to me, Marco? Adrian's voice was dangerously quiet. Say it clearly. Marco met his gaze without flinching. I'm saying your people are restless. They signed up for one kind of organization, and you're changing the rules without asking if they want to play a different game. I don't ask permission to lead. Maybe you should start before someone decides they'd rather follow a different leader. The threat wasn't even veiled. It just sat there on the table, naked and obvious. Adrian stood slowly. Everyone tensed. Vincent moved closer. But Adrian just smiled, cold, sharp, nothing warm in it. Let me be very clear, he said. I appreciate your concerns. All of you. You've been loyal, effective, integral to everything we've built. But this organization moves in the direction I choose. If you don't like that direction, you're welcome to leave. Quietly, with your pockets full, and no hard feelings. He placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. But if you stay, you follow my lead. No more questions about strategy, no more undermining decisions you don't agree with. You execute what I order when I order it. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. James Reeves cleared his throat. And if we think you're making a mistake, then you tell me privately, make your case, and accept my final decision. Adrian straightened. What you don't do is challenge my authority in front of others, spread dissent, or act like this is a democracy. It's not. It never was. Yuki nodded almost imperceptibly. James looked uncomfortable but didn't argue. David's leg was still bouncing, his expression hostile. Marco studied Adrian for a long moment. Your father wouldn't have tolerated this conversation. My father died alone, paranoid, with more enemies than allies. I'm trying not to repeat his mistakes. Adrian's voice softened fractionally. I value your experience, Marco, I do. But I need you with me, not against me. Can you do that? The warehouse was so quiet Lena could hear her own breathing. Finally, Marco nodded. I can do that. Good. Adrian retook his seat. Then let's talk about the Thompson acquisition. Here's what's happening. The meeting continued for another 90 minutes. Lena took notes mechanically, barely processing the words. Her entire focus was on reading the room, the body language, the pauses, the things not being said. David Chen was a problem. He barely spoke for the rest of the meeting, but his hostility was palpable. Marco had acquiesced, but his compliance felt temporary, strategic. James and Yuki seemed genuinely aligned with Adrian, but Lena couldn't shake the feeling that loyalty in this world was fluid, conditional. When it finally ended, people filed out quickly. David left without saying goodbye. Marco paused next to Adrian, said something too quiet for Lena to hear, then walked away. Vincent secured the perimeter while Adrian stood by the table, staring at nothing. That went well, Lena said, aiming for lightness. Adrian's laugh was harsh. That was a disaster. You stood your ground. I drew a line I'm not sure I can enforce. He rubbed his face, suddenly looking exhausted. Marco's right about one thing. People are restless. They want the old certainties, the clear rules. What I'm offering is messy, complicated. It's also smarter. He looked at her. You think so? I don't know enough about your world to have a real opinion. But I know short-term thinking versus long-term strategy. What you're describing sounds like actual planning, not just reacting. She closed the tablet. Though I also know you've got at least one person in that room who's actively working against you. David. Yeah. Adrian nodded slowly. He's connected to some people who preferred my father's approach. They're using him to test my resolve. What are you going to do about it? Keep him close. Let him think he's getting away with it. Then remove the problem when the timing's right. His expression was unreadable. That's how this works, Lena. You don't react emotionally. You plan, position, then execute. That's terrifying. That's survival. He started toward the exit. Come on, I need a drink. They ended up at a bar in Logan Square, the kind of place that didn't ask questions and didn't have security cameras. Vincent stayed outside. Margot had left after the meeting, already on the phone with lawyers about the Thompson contracts. Adrian ordered whiskey. Neat. Lena got the same, not knowing what else to ask for. "You did good today," Adrian said. "Stayed calm, paid attention. That's harder than it sounds. I was terrified the entire time." "I know, but you didn't show it." He sipped his drink. "That's a skill. Most people panic, try to fill silence with words, make themselves targets. You just observed." I had a panic button in my pocket. "Smart. Did you consider using it?" "When Marco threatened you." "For about 3 seconds." Adrian smiled. "Vincent would have shot him before you finished pressing it." "That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be." He set down his glass. "This is the part where I should probably apologize for bringing you into this, for exposing you to people like David and Marco, for making you complicit in things you never signed up for." "Are you apologizing?" "No. Because you're exactly where I need you to be, and I'm selfish enough to keep you there." Lena should have been angry, should have felt manipulated, used. Instead, she just felt seen. "I could leave," she said quietly. "You said no strings. I could walk out right now." "You could, but I'm not going to." "I know." Adrian's eyes held hers. "Why not?" She thought about it, really thought about it. The honest answer was complicated, messy, probably stupid. "Because I've spent 3 years feeling invisible. Working jobs where I was interchangeable, living in places that didn't matter, existing but not actually living." She traced the rim of her glass. "And then I ran into you in the rain, and you looked at me like I was real, like what I said mattered." "It did matter. I know. That's the problem." She drank, welcoming the burn. "I should be scared of you, of this whole situation, and I am, sometimes. But mostly, I'm just interested. In you, in how this all works, and whether you'll actually pull off what you're trying to do." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "I'm going to disappoint you eventually. Everyone does." "Probably, but at least I'll have felt something other than numb." She met his gaze. "That's worth the risk." Something shifted in his expression, surprise maybe, or recognition. "You're dangerous, Lena Carter." "How so?" "Because you make me want things I can't afford to want." He signaled for another round. "Like trust. Like partnership that isn't based on fear or obligation." "Is that so impossible?" "In my world, yes." The bartender refilled their glasses. Adrian stared into his drink. "Everyone wants something. Power, protection, money. The people who claim they don't want anything are usually the ones who want the most." "What do you think I want?" "I don't know yet. That's what makes you interesting." Lena's phone buzzed. Text from Eli. "Need to talk. Security issue. Not urgent, but soon." She showed Adrian the message. His jaw tightened. "Finish your drink. We're going back to the office." Eli was waiting in the penthouse, laptop open, looking more serious than Lena had ever seen him. "We've got a leak," he said without preamble. "Someone's feeding information to outside parties. I've been tracking unusual data access patterns for a week, and it's consistent. Same person, same times, pulling files they shouldn't have access to." Adrian's expression went cold. "Who?" "Still working on it. They're using a proxy, bouncing the connection through multiple servers. But they're in our network, which means it's someone we trust." Eli pulled up a screen full of code Lena couldn't decipher. "They accessed the Thompson acquisition files 3 days ago, the Delgado contracts yesterday. And this morning, they pulled your personal schedule." "My schedule?" Adrian moved closer. "What specifically?" "Everything. Meetings, locations, travel plans, everything Lena's been organizing." Lena's stomach dropped. "Are you saying this is my fault?" "I'm saying someone's using your access to get information." Eli's tone wasn't accusatory, just factual. "Either they've compromised your devices or they're watching your activity." Adrian's hand landed on Lena's shoulder, brief, reassuring. "It's not your fault." "Eli, how fast can you lock this down?" "Already done. I've created a shadow schedule, fake information that looks real. If they access it again, we'll know exactly who it is." "Good. Set it up. Make the fake schedule convincing. Real locations, plausible meetings. Let's see who takes the bait." Vincent entered, phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call, looked at Adrian. "We've got another problem." "Of course we do." David Chen just met with someone from the Koreans. One of my guys spotted them at a restaurant in Chinatown, deep in conversation. The temperature in the room plummeted. The Koreans, Adrian repeated slowly. The same organization that's been trying to move into our South Side territory for 6 months. The same. Adrian was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was ice. David's making his move. He's selling us out, trying to broker a deal that cuts me out and puts him in charge. What do you want to do? Vincent's hand rested on his weapon. Nothing yet. Let him think he's being clever. Adrian turned to Eli. The leak. Could it be David? Possible. I'll cross-reference the access times with his schedule, see if there's overlap. Do it! Fast! Adrian looked at Vincent. Increase security. I want eyes on David 24/7. And put someone on the Koreans. I want to know every move they make. Done. Everyone moved into action. Eli returned to his laptop. Vincent made calls. Margot appeared from somewhere, already reading legal documents on her phone. Lena stood frozen, trying to process. Adrian noticed. Hey, you okay? I don't know. This is a lot. I know. He guided her to the couch, away from the others. Listen to me. This is what I was trying to protect you from. The politics, the betrayals, the constant threat assessment. It's exhausting and dangerous, and you didn't sign up for it. Neither did you, Lena said. You inherited it. That doesn't make it less my responsibility. His eyes were serious. If you want out, now's the time. I can protect you, set you up somewhere safe, make sure none of this touches you. And if I stay, then you're in it, all the way. The good, the bad, the terrifying. He paused. I won't lie to you, Lena. The next few weeks are going to get ugly. David's going to force my hand, and when that happens, there won't be a clean resolution. Someone's going to get hurt. Lena thought about Murphy's diner, the studio apartment with broken heat, the feeling of invisibility that had defined her life for 3 years. Then she thought about the last 2 weeks, the apartment in Lincoln Park, the work that actually mattered, the man in front of her who looked at her like she was essential. I'm staying, she said. Why? Because running didn't make me happy before. Maybe standing still will. Adrian's expression softened. You're brave. Foolish, but brave. I'll take that. Lena, his voice dropped. If things go wrong, if David makes his move and it gets violent, I need you to promise me something. What? That you'll listen to Vincent, that you'll let him get you out, protect you, even if I'm not there to give the order. The implications of that hit hard. Adrian, promise me. She held his gaze. I promise. Good. He stood, the moment of vulnerability closing. Eli, what's the timeline on identifying the leak? Give me 12 hours. If they access the fake schedule, I'll have them. Make it 8. The penthouse became a command center. Phones rang constantly. People came and went. Lena took notes, coordinated logistics, did everything Adrian needed without being asked. Around midnight, Margot pulled her aside. You're doing well, Margot said. Better than I expected. Thanks, I think. I mean it. Most people would have run by now. The ones who stay usually have ulterior motives. Margot's gaze was assessing. I don't think you do. I just want to help. That's what worries me. Margot lowered her voice. Adrian's trying to change things, make them better. But change is dangerous in this world. The people who benefit from chaos will fight to maintain it. David's just the first. There will be others. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. Adrian cares about you, more than he should probably. That makes you valuable, but it also makes you a target. Margot's expression was kind, almost maternal. Watch your back. Trust Vincent. And if things get too heavy, remember that leaving isn't betrayal. It's survival. Before Lena could respond, Eli called out. Got movement. Someone just accessed the fake schedule. Everyone converged on his laptop. Can you trace it? Adrian leaned over Eli's shoulder. Working on it. They're using a VPN, but... Got it. Location's pinging from... Eli's face went pale. Marco's house. The room went silent. Vincent spoke first. You sure? Positive. IP address matches his home network. The access happened 3 minutes ago. Adrian's expression was carved from stone. Marco. Maybe someone's using his network, Lena suggested. Could it be a setup? It's possible, Eli said, but unlikely. The access patterns match his typical activity, times he's usually online, sites he visits afterward. This is consistent with his behavior. Adrian walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back, his signature position when making hard decisions. Marco's been with me since the beginning, he said quietly. He was loyal to my father for 20 years before that. If he's the leak, it's not just betrayal. It's personal. What do you want to do? Vincent's tone was neutral, professional. Confirm it first. Eli, can you bait him again? Send something specific to the fake schedule, see if he bites. Easy, give me an hour. Do it. Adrian turned back. Vincent, I want surveillance on his house. Everyone who comes and goes, phone records, financial transactions, everything. Already calling it in. The night stretched into early morning. Lena made coffee, coordinated with Vincent's security team, fielded calls from people whose names she was starting to recognize. At 3 a.m., Eli had confirmation. He accessed the schedule again. This time he pulled a file I planted. Fake meeting with the Koreans, supposedly Adrian's attempt to negotiate behind David's back. Smart, Margot said. If Marco's working with David, he'll pass that information along, try to make you look like the betrayer. Exactly what I'm counting on. Adrian's smile was cold. Let them think I'm off balance, desperate. The more confident they get, the sloppier they become. And when they make their move, Lena asked, we'll be ready. The plan took shape over the next few hours. Adrian would allow the fake information to spread, let Marco and David think they had the upper hand. Meanwhile, Eli would continue tracking communications, Vincent would position security assets, and Margot would prepare legal contingencies. As dawn broke over Chicago, the penthouse finally emptied. Vincent left to coordinate surveillance. Eli went to set up monitoring equipment. Margot headed home for a few hours of sleep before the real work began. Lena and Adrian were alone. You should rest, Adrian said. Today is going to be long. So should you. Can't. Too much to think about. He poured himself coffee, grimaced at the taste. How old is this? 4 hours? Maybe 5? Disgusting. He drank it anyway. Lena joined him by the window. The city was waking up, lights coming on in apartments, early commuters beginning their routines. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware of the chess game being played in the shadows. Do you ever wish you could just be one of them? She asked. Regular job, regular problems, nothing more complicated than traffic? Every single day. Adrian's voice was tired. But wishing doesn't change anything. I am who I am. This is the life I have. You could leave. Start over somewhere else. I tried that once. Made it 3 months before I realized I couldn't escape what I'd built. The organization needed leadership. Without me, it would have collapsed into violence, dragged innocent people into the chaos. He set down the coffee. So I came back. Decided if I was stuck in this world, I'd at least try to make it better. Is it working? Ask me in 6 months. If I'm still alive, maybe. He looked at her. You sure you want to be here for that? Lena thought about the panic button in her pocket, the conversation with Margot, the very real possibility that staying meant danger she couldn't fully comprehend. Then she thought about Adrian standing in a warehouse, drawing a line with people who could easily destroy him. Thought about him ordering whiskey in a quiet bar, admitting he wanted things he couldn't afford to want. Thought about the way he looked at her, like she mattered, like her presence made a difference. I'm sure, she said. Adrian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her jawline. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, he said softly, or the most reckless. Can it be both? He laughed, genuine, warm. Then his expression turned serious. If anything happens to you because of me, it won't. You don't know that. Neither do you. Lena covered his hand with hers. We're both guessing. Let's at least guess together. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. The tension was there, heavy and obvious, but instead he just nodded, stepped back, let his hand fall. Together, he repeated. Okay. Her phone buzzed. Text from Vincent. Got activity at Marco's. David Chen just arrived. Adrian read the message over her shoulder. His expression hardened instantly. Here we go, he said. Let's see what they're planning. Vincent's surveillance photos arrived within the hour. David Chen and Marco Santini sat across from each other in Marco's kitchen, coffee cups between them, body language tight with conspiracy. The images were grainy but clear enough. Two men who should have been reporting to Adrian, plotting something they didn't want him to know about. How long were they in there? Adrian studied each photo with cold precision. 43 minutes, Vincent said through the phone on speaker. David left at 4:17. Marco made 3 calls immediately after. All to burner phones. Can't trace them yet. Keep the surveillance active. I want to know every person Marco contacts, every move he makes. Adrian ended the call, tossed his phone onto the desk. They're accelerating. Whatever they're planning, it's happening soon. Lena had been organizing files, trying to make herself useful, while her brain processed the fact that she was now part of an actual conspiracy investigation. What do you think they want? Me gone. David in charge. Marco is the power behind the throne, maintaining connections while David handles day-to-day operations. Adrian paced to the window, that familiar position. It's not a bad plan, actually. David's young enough to seem like fresh leadership. Marco's experienced enough to keep things stable. Together, they could probably convince enough people to follow them. So what's stopping them? Me. And the fact that going after me directly means war. Internal conflict destroys organizations faster than external threats. He turned back. They need me to either step down voluntarily or make a mistake big enough that removing me looks justified. The fake schedule, Lena realized. They think you're secretly negotiating with the Koreans. That's the mistake they're waiting for. Exactly. If I'm selling out to outside interests, betraying the organization's independence, then taking me out becomes protecting the family. Adrian's smile was sharp. They're building a narrative. We just need to let them commit to it fully before we pull the rug out. Margot arrived an hour later, looking exhausted but focused. I've been reviewing contingencies. If this goes the way we think it will, we need legal cover for whatever happens next. Define whatever happens, Lena said. Margot and Adrian exchanged a look. Finally, Adrian spoke. If Marco and David move against me, the response has to be permanent. Half measures create ongoing threats. I either remove them completely or I lose control of the entire organization. The clinical way he said it made Lena's skin crawl. Remove them? You mean, eliminate the threat in whatever way necessary. Adrian's voice was flat. I don't want to kill them, Lena. I've known Marco for years, but if they force a confrontation, I can't afford mercy. There has to be another way. There isn't. Margot's tone was almost gentle. This is the world Adrian inherited. Violence isn't the first option, but it's always an option. The moment you take it off the table completely, you become vulnerable. Lena sat down heavily. This was different from abstract discussions about Adrian's world, different from taking notes in tense meetings. This was real planning for real violence against real people. I know this is hard, Adrian said. If you need to step back, no. Lena forced herself to meet his eyes. I said I was in. I meant it. I need a minute to adjust. Take all the time you need. Eli burst through the door, laptop in hand, looking manic. We've got a problem. A big one. Adrian's expression hardened. What now? The Koreans aren't just meeting with David. They're actively recruiting from our ranks. I've been monitoring communications, and at least 6 of our people have been approached in the last 72 hours. They're offering protection, better pay, territory rights. Who's vulnerable? Margot asked. Eli pulled up a list. Rodriguez from the West Side. Kim and Santos from distribution. Fletcher, who runs security for the South warehouses. Patterson from collections. And he hesitated. Michael Viscari. The room went dead silent. My cousin Michael? Adrian's voice was dangerously quiet. Yeah. They approached him yesterday. Offered him a territory bigger than what he's running now, plus a stake in their expansion plans. Adrian's jaw clenched. Did he accept? Don't know yet. He hasn't responded either way. Just listen to their pitch. Keep monitoring. If Michael flips... Adrian didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Family betrayal cut deeper than anything else. There's more, Eli continued. The Koreans are planning something for Friday night. I intercepted encrypted messages referencing a delivery at the Southside warehouses. No specifics, but the timing's suspicious. Friday's when I'm supposed to meet with Thompson to finalize the acquisition, Adrian said. Public location, neutral ground. If something happens at the warehouses while I'm occupied, they could take the territory while you're unable to respond immediately, Margot finished. And if David's people are already compromised, they won't defend it. Vincent called back. Got something else? Marco just left his house, heading south. My guy's tailing him. Adrian put the phone on speaker. Where south? Looks like, yeah, he's heading toward the warehouses, same ones Eli just mentioned. Everything clicked into place. It's a setup, Adrian said. The fake schedule worked too well. They think I'm negotiating with the Koreans Friday, so they're planning to hit the warehouses while I'm supposedly occupied. Catch me in the lie, show the organization I've betrayed them, then move against me with justification. Except you're not actually meeting with the Koreans, Lena said. No, which means Friday, I'll be exactly where I need to be to stop whatever they're planning. Adrian looked at Vincent's phone. Don't lose Marco. I want to know exactly where he goes, who he talks to. On it. The next 3 days were organized chaos. Adrian maintained his normal schedule, gave no indication he knew about the conspiracy. Lena coordinated his actual meetings while Eli maintained the fake schedule, feeding Marco and David just enough false information to keep them committed. Vincent positioned security teams around the Southside warehouses, hidden observers who could move quickly if needed. Margot prepared documentation that would legally justify whatever actions became necessary: self-defense claims, property protection, emergency response protocols that skirted the edge of legality but held up under scrutiny. And Lena watched it all unfold, taking notes, coordinating communications, trying not to think too hard about what Friday might bring. Thursday night, Adrian called her into his office after everyone else had left. You should stay home tomorrow, he said without preamble. Whatever happens at those warehouses, it's going to be dangerous. I don't want you anywhere near it. Where you go, I go. That's the job. The job doesn't include getting shot at. Might want to update the employment terms then. Lena kept her voice steady. I'm not sitting this out, Adrian. You need someone there taking notes, documenting everything. That's me. Lena, we've had this conversation. I'm staying. She crossed her arms. Unless you're firing me, I'll be there. He stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. You're impossible. I learned from the best. Adrian almost smiled. Then his expression turned serious. If I tell you to run, you run. If Vincent says get down, you hit the ground. If anything feels wrong, you use that panic button. Agreed? Agreed. And if something happens to me, it won't. If it does, he continued firmly, Vincent has instructions. He'll get you out, set you up somewhere safe, make sure you're protected. There's money in an account with your name on it. Enough to start over anywhere you want. Lena's throat tightened. You've been planning for this. I've been planning for every contingency. That's how I've stayed alive this long. He moved closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of everything he carried. You've become important to me, Lena. More important than is probably wise. I need to know you'll be okay if tomorrow goes wrong. I need you to know I'm not going anywhere. She reached out, took his hand. We're in this together. You said that, remember? I remember everything you've said. His thumb traced her knuckles. Every word, every look, every moment since that night in the rain. You've changed things for me. Made me want... He stopped, seemed to reconsider. Made me hope that maybe there's more to life than just survival. There is. There can be. Not if I'm dead. Then don't die. Lena squeezed his hand. Pretty simple solution. He laughed, the sound breaking some of the tension. You make it sound easy. It's not. But nothing about this has been easy, and we've managed so far. Adrian pulled her closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When she didn't, his other hand cupped her face, tilting it up toward his. Last chance to run, he murmured. Not running. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might break. But when Lena leaned into it, her hands gripping his shirt, something shifted. The kiss deepened, became urgent, months of tension and wanting compressed into a single moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. That was a terrible idea, he said, probably the worst. We should maintain professional boundaries. Definitely. Neither of them moved. Tomorrow's going to change everything, Adrian said quietly. One way or another, after Friday, nothing will be the same. I know. You scared? Terrified. Lena pulled back just enough to see his face. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe and alone. That might be the most romantic and simultaneously disturbing thing anyone's ever said to me. I aimed to please. This time when he kissed her, it was slower, deeper, like he was memorizing the feel of her. Lena let herself sink into it, let herself stop thinking about warehouses and conspiracies and the very real possibility that tomorrow could end in bloodshed. For just this moment, there was only Adrian and the warmth of his hands and the way he kissed her like she was something precious. Eventually they pulled apart. Reality reasserted itself. Get some sleep, Adrian said. We leave at 7. What about you? I'll sleep when this is over. He stepped back, putting professional distance between them. Vincent's driving you home. Don't argue. I wasn't going to. Liar. Lena smiled despite everything. Good night, Adrian. Good night, Lena. She left before she could change her mind, before she could suggest staying, before the moment could complicate into something neither of them was ready for. Vincent was waiting downstairs, as promised. The drive to Lincoln Park was silent until they were halfway there. He cares about you, Vincent said abruptly. More than I've seen him care about anyone in a long time. I care about him too. I know, that's what worries me. Vincent glanced at her in the rearview mirror. People Adrian cares about become targets. His father learned that the hard way. Everyone close to him ended up dead or damaged. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to prepare you. Tomorrow's going to be bad, Lena. Marco and David aren't stupid. They'll have backup, contingencies. And the Koreans don't play fair. He pulled up to her building. Just stay close to me. Let me do my job. If bullets start flying, your only priority is staying alive, not documenting, not helping Adrian, just surviving. Understood? Understood. Good. He waited until she was inside the building before driving away. Lena barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw scenarios, gunfire, blood, Adrian falling, her own frozen fear rendering her useless when it mattered most. At 6 a.m., she gave up, showered, dressed in dark jeans and a black jacket, practical clothes that wouldn't show dirt or blood. The thought made her stomach turn. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. Cars outside, bring the panic button. Bring waking. The warehouse district looked different in daylight. Still industrial, still empty, but less menacing somehow. Vincent had already positioned people at key points. Lena could spot them now that she knew what to look for. Men in casual clothes, positioned too precisely to be random, eyes constantly scanning. Adrian's car was parked behind the main warehouse, out of sight from the street. He climbed out when Lena arrived, wearing all black, looking every inch the dangerous man Marco and David feared. Status? He asked Vincent. Everyone's in position. Eli's got remote access to the security cameras. Margot's standing by with legal. Marco arrived 30 minutes ago with David and 4 others. They're inside waiting. For me or for the Koreans? Both, probably. The Koreans are supposed to arrive at 8 for the supposed handoff. Vincent checked his watch. 20 minutes. Adrian nodded. Then we wait. Let them get comfortable, commit fully. When the Koreans arrive, we move. They took position in a small office on the 2nd floor. Good vantage point, multiple exits, defensible. Lena's hands shook as she pulled out her tablet, opened a blank document for notes. Adrian noticed. Hey, you okay? No, but I'm here. That's all I ask. He checked his weapon. The first time Lena had seen him armed. The gun looked wrong in his hands, foreign, despite the practiced ease with which he handled it. Whatever happens, stay behind Vincent. He'll protect you. What about you? I'll be fine. Promise me. Adrian looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment the mask dropped. She saw fear there, and determination, and something else she couldn't quite name. I promise to try, he said finally. That's the best I can do. At 7:58, headlights cut through the morning shadows. 2 black SUVs pulled into the warehouse yard. Vincent's radio crackled. Koreans are here. 6 visible, probably more in the vehicles. Armed. Adrian moved to the window, careful to stay hidden. Lena joined him, watching as men climbed out of the SUVs. They moved with military precision, weapons visible, no attempt at concealment. The warehouse door opened. Marco stepped out, David beside him. They approached the Koreans, shook hands, money exchanged. Lena couldn't hear the conversation from this distance, but she could read the body language. Transaction, agreement, betrayal, finalized. Eli, Adrian spoke into his phone. You recording this? Every second. Got clear footage of Marco and David with the Koreans, money changing hands. That's enough to prove the betrayal. Good. Keep recording. Adrian turned to Vincent. How many of our people know what's really happening? 6 are with us. Loyal, ready to move on your signal. The rest are Marco's, either bought off or kept in the dark. What about Michael? Vincent hesitated. He's inside, hasn't made contact either way. Adrian's jaw tightened. We'll deal with him after. The Koreans started unloading crates from the SUVs. Weapons, Lena realized with growing horror. This wasn't just a meeting. This was an armory transfer, equipment for a war. They're planning to move tonight, Adrian said quietly. Hit multiple targets simultaneously. Overwhelm our response. Marco's giving them everything they need. Location, security details, timing. So what do we do? Lena asked. We end this. Now. Adrian pulled out his phone, sent a single text. Within seconds, Vincent's team moved into position, surrounding the warehouse. Marco noticed first. His head snapped up, scanning the perimeter. He said something sharp to David, who immediately reached for his weapon. Too late. Adrian stepped out of the office, walked calmly down the stairs into the main warehouse floor. Vincent flanked him, weapon drawn. Lena stayed back, heart hammering, tablet clutched uselessly in her shaking hands. Marco. Adrian's voice carried across the space, calm and cold. We need to talk. Marco's expression flickered. Surprise, calculation, resignation. Adrian, this isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you're selling weapons to the Koreans in my warehouse, using my resources to betray everything we've built. Adrian stopped 10 feet away. Tell me how I'm misreading this. David moved closer to Marco, hand on his gun. The Koreans spread out, forming a loose circle. Vincent's people emerged from cover, weapons trained, Mexican standoff. Nobody moved. You're destroying this organization, Marco said, finally. Your father built something powerful, something people feared. You're turning it soft, weak. Someone had to stop you. By selling us out to outsiders? That's your solution? The Koreans respect strength. They offered partnership, real power. Not this, Marco gestured dismissively. This corporate sanitization you're pushing. We're criminals, Adrian. Pretending otherwise doesn't change what we are. I'm trying to build something that lasts, something that doesn't end with all of us dead or in prison. Adrian's control was absolute, voice never rising. You're choosing short-term profit over long-term survival. I'm choosing reality over your fantasy. Marco drew his weapon. And I'm choosing new leadership. Everything happened at once. David pulled his gun. The Koreans raised theirs. Vincent's team shouted warnings. Lena hit the ground, hands over her head, tablet clattering away. The first shot was deafening. Lena couldn't tell who fired. Suddenly, the warehouse was chaos. Muzzle flashes, the crack of gunfire, shouting in multiple languages. She crawled behind a concrete pillar, making herself as small as possible, panic button pressed hard in her palm. Vincent was returning fire, protecting Adrian's position. Adrian himself had taken cover behind a crate, weapon out but not firing yet, still trying to de-escalate. Stand down, he shouted. Nobody else has to die. Marco's response was another shot, close enough that concrete chips exploded near Adrian's head. Lena, get out, Vincent yelled. Now! But the exit was blocked. Korean operatives had taken position there, cutting off escape routes. She was trapped, pinned down, useless. One of the Koreans moved toward her position. Vincent saw, swung his weapon around, fired twice. The man dropped. Stay down, Vincent commanded. David was shooting wildly, panicked, inexperienced. One of Vincent's team took him down with a clean shot to the shoulder. David fell, screaming, weapons skittering away. Marco was more controlled, advancing on Adrian's position with cold precision. You should have stayed in your lane, Asa, he called. Your father would have handled this by now. My father would have gotten everyone killed. Adrian stood, weapon raised. Last chance, Marco. Stand down. No. Marco fired. Adrian dove left, returned fire. The shot caught Marco in the leg, dropping him to one knee. But Marco wasn't done. Even wounded, he raised his weapon again, aimed directly at Adrian. Lena saw it happening in slow motion, saw Marco's finger tighten on the trigger, saw Adrian partially exposed, unable to move fast enough. She didn't think. One of the Korean operatives had dropped his weapon nearby when Vincent shot him. Lena grabbed it, hands shaking so badly she could barely hold it steady. "Marco!" she screamed. He turned, surprised. For a split second he hesitated. Lena pulled the trigger. The recoil nearly knocked her over. The sound was impossibly loud. And Marco looked down at the spreading red on his chest, expression more confused than pained. He fell. The warehouse went silent. Everyone staring at Lena, at the smoking gun in her hands, at Marco's body on the concrete. "Oh God," Lena whispered. "Oh God, oh God." The Koreans broke first. Without Marco and David to coordinate with, they retreated, dragging their wounded, leaving their equipment. Vincent's team let them go, too focused on securing the scene. Adrian crossed to Lena in 3 strides, carefully took the weapon from her frozen hands. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're okay. He was going to kill me. You saved my life. I shot him. I killed—" Lena couldn't finish. Her legs gave out. Adrian caught her, lowered her to the ground, held her while she shook. "Breathe. Just breathe. You did what you had to do." Vincent was on the radio, calling for medical, for cleanup, for lawyers. Margot would already be mobilizing, preparing the legal defense, the official story. One of Vincent's team checked Marco's pulse. He's gone. David was still alive, bleeding from his shoulder, being restrained by 2 security guys. He was crying, repeating, "I'm sorry," over and over. Michael Viscari emerged from an upstairs office, hands raised. "I wasn't part of this," he said quickly. "They approached me, yeah, but I came to Adrian 2 days ago, told him everything. I've been feeding them false information." Adrian looked at Vincent, who nodded confirmation. "He's telling the truth. Michael's been helping us from inside." Relief and betrayal and a dozen other emotions crossed Adrian's face. "We'll talk later." Lena couldn't stop shaking. Adrian's arms around her were the only thing keeping her together, keeping her from completely falling apart. "I killed someone," she said numbly. You saved me." Adrian pulled back, made her look at him. "Marco was going to shoot me. You stopped him. That's all that matters." "I can't. I don't. I know it's horrible. I know you feel like you're drowning right now." His voice was gentle, grounding. "But you're alive. I'm alive. We survived." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Margot's car pulled up outside. "What happens now?" Lena managed. "Now we deal with the aftermath." Adrian helped her stand. "Margot will handle the legal. You were acting in defense of another person. Clear self-defense. There were a dozen witnesses, video footage. You won't be charged." "I don't care about being charged. I care that I killed someone." "I know." He held her face between his hands, forced her to focus on him. "I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry you had to do that. Sorry I put you in this position. This is on me, Lena. All of it. No, I chose to be here. I chose—" Her voice broke. "I chose you." Something in Adrian's expression cracked. "Then let me get you through this. Please." Margot swept in, all business, already on her phone with attorneys and officials and people who made problems disappear. She took one look at Lena, and her expression softened fractionally. "Get her out of here," Margot told Adrian. "I'll handle the scene. Vincent, you've got statements ready?" "Already recorded. Self-defense is airtight." The next hours were a blur. Police interviews that Margot controlled completely. Medical examination Lena didn't remember. Forms she signed without reading. When it was finally over, when all the official people had left and the warehouse had been cleared, and the only thing remaining was exhaustion, Adrian took her back to his penthouse. She sat on the couch, numb, while he made tea she didn't drink. "Talk to me," he said finally. "I don't know what to say." "Anything, everything, nothing." He sat beside her, close but not touching, giving her space. "Whatever you need." "I need—" Lena's voice shook. "I need to know it gets easier. That I won't always see his face, won't always feel the gun, won't always hear. It gets different, Adrian said quietly. Not easier, just different. The sharp edges dull over time. You learn to carry it. You've done this before. More times than I can count. He stared at his hands. My first was when I was 19. One of my father's rivals came after me in a parking garage. I didn't want to shoot him, did everything to avoid it, but he kept coming, and Adrian's jaw tightened. Survival isn't pretty, Lena. Sometimes it's a choice between you or them, and choosing yourself means living with what that choice costs. How do you live with it? By trying to make sure the next generation doesn't have to make the same choices. By building something better, cleaner, so fewer people end up in warehouses with guns in their hands. He looked at her. By finding something worth protecting, worth fighting for, worth surviving for. Is that what I am? Something worth surviving for? You're everything worth surviving for. Adrian's voice was raw, honest. You walked into my life telling the truth when everyone else was lying. You stayed when you should have run. You pulled a trigger to save me when every instinct probably screamed to hide. He stopped, gathered himself. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, Lena Carter. And I'm sorry. Sorry this is the world I've brought you into. Lena turned to face him fully. I'm not. You should be, but I'm not. She took his hand. I'm scared and traumatized and probably going to have nightmares for months. But I'm not sorry. Because being with you, being part of this, even the horrible parts, makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt since my mom died. That's the trauma talking. No, it's me talking. The real me, the one who's been buried under years of just surviving, just existing. She squeezed his hand. You make me want to fight. For you, for this, for us. Is that crazy? Completely. Good. Then we're both crazy. Adrian pulled her close, and Lena let herself be held, let herself finally break down, crying for Marco, for herself, for the innocence she'd lost in a warehouse surrounded by violence. And through it all, Adrian held her, solid and steady, the eye of a storm that was far from over. Morning came too early and too bright. Lena woke on Adrian's couch, covered with a blanket she didn't remember pulling over herself. Her body ached like she'd been hit by a truck. Her hands were stiff, fingers curled from gripping a weapon she could still feel the weight of. Adrian sat in the chair across from her, already dressed, coffee in hand. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. How long was I out? Her voice came out rough. 6 hours. You needed it. He set down his coffee. Margot called. The official report's been filed. Self-defense, justified use of force, no charges. It's done. Done. Like the word could contain everything that happened, everything she'd done. Lena sat up slowly, the blanket falling away. What about David? In custody. He's cooperating, giving up names of everyone Marco recruited. In exchange, he'll probably avoid the worst charges. Adrian's expression was unreadable. He's not a threat anymore. Just a scared kid who got in over his head. And the Koreans? Gone. They lost equipment, personnel, and their inside connection. They won't try again anytime soon. He paused. We won, Lena. Against the odds, we actually won. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like surviving, which wasn't the same thing at all. I need to go home, she said. Take a shower, change clothes. Think. Vincent's downstairs whenever you're ready. Adrian stood, hesitated. If you need time off, if you need space from all this, I understand. Do you want me to take time off? I want you to do whatever helps you heal. His voice was careful. Yesterday was traumatic. Nobody expects you to just bounce back. Lena studied him. The careful distance he was maintaining, the professional tone. He was giving her an out, a clean exit if she wanted it. Part of her did want it, wanted to run back to something simple, safe, uncomplicated. But the larger part, the part that had been dormant for 3 years, wanted to stay, wanted to see this through, whatever this was. I'll take today, she said, process everything, get my head straight. Tomorrow, I'm back. Something in Adrian's expression shifted. Relief, maybe. Okay. The drive back to Lincoln Park was silent. Vincent didn't try to make conversation, didn't offer empty comfort. He just drove, professional and steady, the kind of presence that didn't require words. At her building, he walked her to the door. "You did good yesterday," Vincent said. "Saved Adrian's life, saved all our lives, really. That counts for something." "Doesn't feel like it." "It will. Eventually." He handed her a card. "That's my direct number. You need anything, and I mean anything, you call. Day or night. Understood?" "Understood." "Get some rest. Eat something. The trauma hits in waves. Don't try to tough it out alone." Lena nodded, throat too tight for words. Inside her apartment, everything looked exactly as she'd left it 24 hours ago. Dishes in the sink, laptop on the coffee table, shoes by the door. Normal life, frozen in time, waiting for her to step back into it. Except she couldn't. The person who'd left yesterday morning wasn't the same person who came back. She showered for 40 minutes, water so hot it burned, trying to scrub away the feeling of gunpowder residue and Marco's blood and the sound that kept echoing in her head, the wet, final sound of a body hitting concrete. When the water ran cold, she got out, dressed in clean clothes that felt foreign against her skin, and sat on her bed staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Text from Eli. "Heard what happened. You okay?" She typed back, "Not really. Fair. Need anything? Time machine? Fresh out. Can offer Chinese food and bad movies if that helps." Despite everything, Lena smiled. "Maybe later. Standing offer." Margot called an hour later. "Lena, how are you holding up?" "I don't know. Ask me in a week." That's honest, at least. Margot's voice was kind in a way Lena hadn't heard before. "I wanted to update you on the legal situation. Everything's been processed. The district attorney reviewed the evidence and declined to prosecute. You're clear." "That's good." "It is. But clear doesn't mean fine, and I know that." Margot paused. "I'm sending you information for a therapist, someone who specializes in trauma, who understands our particular circumstances. Confidential, discreet. I think you should talk to them." "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long. The longer you wait, the deeper it sets in." Another pause. "For what it's worth, you saved Adrian. I've known him for 10 years, watched him survive things that should have killed him. Yesterday would have been his end if you hadn't acted, so thank you." The call ended before Lena could respond. She spent the rest of the day doing nothing. Couldn't focus on TV, couldn't read, couldn't even scroll through her phone without her mind drifting back to the warehouse. Every car door that slammed outside made her flinch. Every unexpected sound triggered a spike of adrenaline. This was what trauma felt like, she realized. Not a single dramatic moment, but a constant low-grade terror that colored everything. As evening approached, her phone rang. Adrian. She considered not answering, considered taking the out he'd offered, walking away while she still could. She answered. "Hey," Adrian said. "How are you doing?" "Honestly, not great." "Yeah, that makes sense." He sounded tired. "I'm not calling to pressure you about work or anything. I wanted to hear your voice, make sure you're okay." "I'm not okay, but I'm breathing. That's enough for today." She could hear him moving, probably pacing. "I talked to Michael. He really was helping us. Feeding Marco false information, keeping track of who was being recruited. He's solid." "That's good." "And the Thompson acquisition went through. Signed the papers this afternoon. We now own a legitimate shipping company with real employees and actual legal income." "Progress." "Yeah." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "Lena, yesterday when it happened, I should have gotten you out sooner. Should have insisted you stay away from the warehouses entirely. It's my fault you had to—" "Stop." Lena's voice was firm. "I made my choices. You didn't force me to be there, didn't force me to pick up that gun. I did that, so don't take responsibility for my decisions. You wouldn't have been in that position if not for me. And I wouldn't have had anywhere to live, any way to survive, any purpose beyond just existing if not for you." She stood, started pacing her apartment. "We can both play the blame game, Adrian, or we can accept that we're in this together, that we make choices together, and that sometimes those choices are hard and horrible and necessary." He was silent so long she thought he'd hung up. "I don't want to lose you," he said finally. "Not to trauma, not to fear, not to the realization that my world is too dark for someone like you." "Someone like me?" "Someone good. Someone who shouldn't have blood on their hands." "Too late for that." The words came out harsher than she intended. "I already have blood on my hands. Can't unpull that trigger, So the question isn't whether I'm too good for your world. The question is whether I can live in it without losing myself completely. Can you? Lena looked around her apartment. The safe, clean space Adrian had provided, the life she'd built in just a few weeks. Then she thought about the alternative. Going back to Murphy's diner, to studio apartments with broken heat, to invisibility and purposelessness. I don't know yet, she admitted, but I'm willing to try. That's more than I deserve. Probably, but I'm not doing this for what you deserve. I'm doing it for me, because even with everything that's happened, I'd rather be here, in the mess, than back where I was. Adrian exhaled, the sound heavy with relief. Okay, then take your time, process what you need to process. When you're ready, I'll be here. Tomorrow, Lena said. I'll be in tomorrow. You sure? No, but I'm coming anyway. After the call ended, Lena pulled up the therapist information Margot had sent. Dr. Sarah Chen, specializing in PTSD, trauma recovery, crisis intervention. Office in River North, availability as soon as Monday. Lena booked an appointment before she could talk herself out of it. Then she ordered Chinese food from Eli's recommended place, put on a mindless action movie, and tried to pretend she was normal. It almost worked. The next morning, Vincent picked her up at 8. You ready for this? He asked as they drove. Nope. Good answer. Overconfidence gets people killed. The penthouse was busy when they arrived. Eli had multiple laptops open, tracking something complex. Margot was on a conference call, pacing while she talked. And Adrian stood by his usual window, phone to his ear, managing what sounded like a logistics issue. He saw Lena, held up a finger, 1 minute, then finished his call. You came, he said. I said I would. I know, but saying and doing are different things. He crossed to her, stopped just short of touching her. How are you really? Terrified, traumatized, questioning everything. But here, she managed a small smile. So that's something. That's everything. Adrian finally closed the distance, pulled her into a hug that felt more like an anchor than a greeting. We're going to get through this, all of it. Promise? I promise to try. That's still the best I can do. They pulled apart as Margot finished her call. She gave Lena a measuring look, then nodded once, apparently satisfied with whatever she saw. Glad you're back. We've got complications. When don't we? Adrian gestured toward the conference table. What now? The Koreans aren't as gone as we thought. Margot pulled up security footage on the main screen. They've been making inquiries, reaching out to some of our peripheral operations. Nothing direct, but it's clear they're looking for another way in. They lost their inside connection, Eli added, but they still want the territory. They're just being more careful this time. Vincent joined them, arms crossed. I've increased security at all key locations, but we can't maintain that level of coverage indefinitely. It's expensive, and it shows weakness. Showing weakness gets us tested, Adrian said, which leads to more conflicts, more violence. He turned to Lena. Thoughts? She blinked. You're asking me? You've got fresh eyes. What do you see? Lena looked at the security footage, the maps Eli had pulled up, showing Korean movement patterns, the financial reports Margot had compiled. Her mind, trained by weeks of organizing Adrian's chaos, started finding patterns. They're probing, she said slowly, testing response times, seeing where we're vulnerable. But they're not committing to anything. They don't want another direct confrontation. So what do they want? Vincent asked. Assurance that we're not expanding into their territories. A guarantee that the power vacuum Marco's death created won't lead to us pushing into their space. Lena looked at Adrian. They're scared of you. Good, Vincent muttered. No, not good, Lena countered. Scared enemies are unpredictable. They might do something desperate. She tapped the map. What if instead of fighting them, we negotiate? Set clear boundaries, non-aggression terms, give them certainty in exchange for them backing off. Margot tilted her head, considering. That could work, if we frame it as mutual benefit rather than weakness. They tried to kill Adrian last week, Vincent pointed out. We're supposed to just forgive that? We're supposed to be smarter than they are, Adrian said quietly. He was looking at Lena with something like pride. A negotiated peace costs nothing and gains us time to consolidate our legitimate operations. The longer we're not actively fighting, the stronger our legal businesses become. Your father would have burned their operations to the ground, Margot said carefully. My father's approach led to constant warfare and his eventual death. Adrian's voice was firm. I'm trying something different. Lena's right. We offer terms, set boundaries, and move forward. If they break the terms, then we respond, but we give peace a chance first. Eli looked skeptical. Vincent looked actively hostile to the idea, but Margot was nodding. I can draft terms, she said. Neutral meeting ground, mediators if needed. Make it official, binding. Do it. Adrian turned to Vincent. I know you don't like this. I think it's naive, Vincent said bluntly. But you're the boss. If you want to try diplomacy, we'll try diplomacy. Just don't expect me to lower security until I see actual proof they're honoring whatever deal we make. Fair enough. The meeting continued for another hour, hammering out details. Lena took notes, offered occasional observations, tried to ignore the lingering tremor in her hands whenever she had to hold something. When everyone finally dispersed to handle their respective tasks, Adrian pulled Lena aside. That was good work, he said. The negotiation angle. I wouldn't have thought of it. You were already thinking it. I just said it out loud. No, I was thinking about defense, protection, maintaining what we have. You're thinking about growth, about moving forward instead of just surviving. He smiled slightly. That's what you bring to this. A perspective I've lost somewhere along the way. Happy to help, though I'm still figuring out how to be helpful without falling apart. You're doing better than you think. Adrian glanced toward his office. Can we talk? Privately? They went to his office, door closed. Adrian leaned against his desk, suddenly looking uncertain. I've been thinking, he started, about everything. The warehouse, Marco, what happened with you and the gun. And I've realized something. Lena waited, heart picking up speed. You've become essential to me, not just as an assistant, not just as someone useful, as, he struggled for the word, as someone I need. Someone whose presence makes everything else make sense. Adrian, let me finish. He took a breath. What I'm trying to say, badly, is that I care about you. More than is probably wise, more than is definitely professional. And I need to know if there's any chance you might feel the same way. Lena stared at him. The powerful man who'd negotiated with criminals and survived betrayal and rebuilt an empire was standing in front of her, vulnerable and uncertain, asking if she might care about him. I pulled a trigger to save your life, she said quietly. I killed someone because the thought of losing you was unbearable. So yes, Adrian, I feel the same way. The tension in his shoulders released. Okay, good. That's good. Though we should probably acknowledge that this is complicated and possibly a terrible idea. Definitely a terrible idea. He moved closer. But I'm willing to risk it if you are. I've already risked everything else. Might as well risk this too. This time when he kissed her, it was different from the night before the warehouse. No desperation, no impending violence. Just certainty and want and the recognition that they'd crossed a line together that couldn't be uncrossed. When they finally pulled apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. We should probably tell people, he said. Vincent's going to have opinions. Vincent has opinions about everything. True. Adrian stepped back, reluctant. We also need to establish boundaries. Work and personal can't completely blur. That's how people get hurt. Agreed, though I reserve the right to ignore boundaries if someone's actively trying to kill you. I wouldn't expect anything less. He glanced at his watch. I've got a call in 10 minutes. You good? Yeah, I'm good. Lena returned to her desk, tried to focus on organizing Adrian's schedule for the next week. But her mind kept drifting, to the kiss, to Marco, to the impossible complexity of caring about someone whose life existed in constant danger. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Lena Carter. We need to talk about Adrian Vescari. Alone. Tonight. 8 p.m. Address below. Come alone or people get hurt. Ice flooded her veins. She stared at the message, reading it 3 times to make sure she wasn't misunderstanding. Someone was threatening her, threatening others, demanding a meeting. Her first instinct was to show Adrian immediately, but the message was clear. Come alone or people get hurt. If she told him, he'd insist on coming, or sending Vincent, or mobilizing security. And whoever sent this would know, unless that was the point. Unless this was a test to see if she'd follow instructions, or run to Adrian for protection. Lena's hands shook as she opened a new note on her phone, started typing everything she knew. The message, the unknown number, her theories about what this might mean. If something happened to her, at least there'd be a record. Then she texted back. "Who is this?" The response was immediate. "Someone who knows what you did at the warehouse. Someone who knows you're in over your head. 8 p.m. Don't be late." She looked across the room at Adrian, on his phone call, completely unaware. Vincent was at the security station, reviewing footage. Eli was buried in his laptops. Nobody was watching her. Nobody would know if she made a terrible decision. Lena closed her eyes, weighed her options. Tell Adrian and potentially escalate whatever this was. Go alone and potentially walk into a trap. Ignore it and risk whoever this was following through on their threats. No good choices, just varying degrees of dangerous. She made her decision, hating herself even as she did it. At 7:30, she told Adrian she wasn't feeling well, needed to go home early. He believed her immediately, offered to have Vincent drive her, insisted she rest. She refused the driver, said she'd take an Uber, promised to check in later. Then she went to the address and the text message, alone, terrified, possibly making the stupidest decision of her life. The location was a coffee shop in a quiet neighborhood, public enough to feel safe, isolated enough for private conversation. Lena arrived at 7:55, scanning for threats, for familiar faces, for any sign this was a setup. At 8 exactly, a woman walked in. Mid-50s, professional clothing, kind face that somehow made Lena more nervous, not less. "Lena Carter." The woman sat across from her, no introduction. "Thank you for coming." "Who are you?" "Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI." She slid a badge across the table. It looked real. "I've been investigating Adrian Viscari's organization for 18 months, and I think you can help me bring him down." Lena's world tilted. I don't... "You killed Marco Santini 3 days ago," Agent Torres said quietly. "Self-defense, legally cleared, I know, but that action put you at the center of an organization we've been trying to infiltrate for years. You have access to Adrian, to his operations, to information we desperately need. I'm not informing on him. I'm not asking you to. Not yet." Torres leaned forward. "I'm asking you to think about what happens next. Adrian's trying to legitimize his operations, which is admirable, but he's still running criminal enterprises, protection rackets, illegal gambling, money laundering through his new legitimate businesses. People are being hurt. Communities are being damaged. He's trying to change that. Is he? Or is he just getting better at hiding it?" Torres pulled out a folder, opened it. Photos of people Lena didn't recognize. These are victims of Adrian's organization, business owners who couldn't pay protection money, families evicted when their neighborhoods got redeveloped, people who crossed the wrong person and disappeared. Adrian didn't do those things. Maybe not directly, but he profits from them. He benefits from the fear his organization creates. Torres closed the folder. "I know you care about him. I can see it. But caring about someone doesn't make their actions right." Lena's mind raced. This was a trap. Had to be. But Torres seemed genuine, the badge looked real, and the things she was saying aligned with Lena's own doubts. "What do you want from me?" Lena asked. "Right now? Nothing. I just wanted you to know I exist, that there's an alternative to the path you're on." Torres slid a card across the table. "That's my direct number. If you decide you want to help, if you decide the right thing to do is stop him before more people get hurt, you call me. And if I don't, then you don't. I can't force you." Torres stood. "But think about what you're protecting, Lena. Think about whether Adrian Viscari's version of the future is really better than what came before, or just a prettier package for the same violence." She left. Lena sat alone in the coffee shop, staring at the FBI card, her entire world fragmenting around her. Everything she thought she knew, everything she'd convinced herself about Adrian's good intentions and noble goals, Torres had just planted doubt in all of it. Was Adrian really changing things? Or was she just too close to see clearly? Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. "Feel better? Call if you need anything." Lena stared at the message, at the card, at the impossible choice sitting in front of her. Then she pocketed both, walked out into the Chicago night, and tried to figure out who she was becoming and whether she could live with that person. Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay in her Lincoln Park apartment, staring at the ceiling, Agent Torres's card burning a hole in her pocket. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw two versions of the same story. In one, Adrian was exactly who he claimed to be, a man trying to drag a violent empire into legitimacy, making hard choices to prevent worse outcomes. In the other, he was what Torres suggested, a criminal who'd learned to dress up brutality in better suits and cleaner language. The worst part was that both versions could be true simultaneously. At 4 a.m., she gave up on sleep, made coffee, and sat by the window watching Chicago wake up. Normal people heading to normal jobs, living normal lives where the hardest choice was traffic routes and what to have for lunch. She'd killed a man 6 days ago. Nothing about her life was normal anymore. Her phone buzzed. Text from Adrian. Can't sleep either. Come to the office? She should have said no. Should have maintained distance, processed everything Torres had said, figured out where her loyalties actually lay. Instead, she typed, "Be there in 30. Vincent picked her up without comment, though his assessing look suggested he knew something was off. The drive was silent except for early morning radio, some talk show host discussing politics like they mattered. Adrian was at his desk when she arrived, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking as exhausted as she felt. Couldn't stop thinking, he said by way of greeting. About the Koreans, the negotiation, what happens if it fails. Then I started thinking about everything else. Marco, David, the warehouse, you. He looked up. Mostly you. Lena set down her bag, stayed near the door. What about me? Whether I've destroyed you. Whether bringing you into this world was the most selfish thing I've ever done. He stood, crossed to the window. You had a life, Lena. Not a great one, but it was yours. Clean, simple, safe. And I took that away. You gave me a different life. I chose to accept it. Because you were desperate. That's not really a choice. It's the only kind of choice most people get. Lena moved closer, drawn despite her reservations. Nobody gets perfect options, Adrian. We just pick the least terrible one and try to live with it. Is that what I am? The least terrible option? She thought about Agent Torres, about the folder full of victims, about the very real possibility that everything Adrian told her was carefully constructed justification for continuing to profit from others' suffering. I don't know anymore, she admitted. Adrian turned, surprise clear on his face. What changed? This was the moment. She could tell him about Torres, about the meeting, about the doubt that had been planted. He deserved to know someone was actively trying to turn her against him. But something stopped her. Maybe self-preservation. Maybe the need to figure things out for herself before external forces started pushing her in directions she might not want to go. Nothing changed. Everything changed. Lena sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I killed someone, Adrian. I keep saying it like if I repeat it enough, it'll start to feel real, but it doesn't. It just feels like something that happened to someone else, someone I'm watching from far away. That's dissociation. It's normal after trauma. Normal. She laughed, the sound harsh. Nothing about this is normal. Nothing about us is normal. And I keep wondering if I'm making terrible decisions because I'm traumatized, or if I was making terrible decisions before and the trauma just made them visible. Adrian sat beside her, close but not touching. What are you really asking? I'm asking if you're worth it, if this... She gestured vaguely at the penthouse, at him, at the life she'd built in a matter of weeks, is worth the cost, worth Marco's death, worth the nightmares, worth becoming someone I don't recognize. That's a fair question. He was quiet for a long moment. I can't answer it for you. I want to say yes, that everything I'm building is worth it, that the end justifies the means. But I don't actually know. I'm gambling that legitimacy and longevity matter more than the traditional ways, but I could be wrong. That's not reassuring. It's honest. He finally looked at her. I'm trying, Lena. Genuinely trying to make things better. But I'm also flawed and sometimes selfish and carrying the weight of an empire I didn't ask for but can't abandon. So if you're looking for certainty that I'm purely good, that everything I do is justified and right, I can't give you that. The honesty shouldn't have helped, but it did. At least he wasn't pretending to have all the answers. What happens if the Korean negotiation fails, she asked. Then we prepare for war. Position assets, fortify territories, hurt them before they hurt us. His voice was matter-of-fact. I don't want that outcome, but I'll do what's necessary to protect what's mine. What about the people who get caught in the crossfire? I minimize damage where I can, but there's no such thing as clean conflict in this world. He met her eyes. If that's not something you can live with, if the moral ambiguity is too much, then maybe you should take Torres up on her offer. Lena's blood went cold. How did you... Did you really think meeting with an FBI agent wouldn't get back to me? I have people watching you, Lena, for your protection, but also because I'm not stupid. His tone wasn't angry, just tired. Torres has been trying to infiltrate my organization for almost 2 years. She's good at her job, and she saw an opportunity in you, someone new, someone traumatized, someone who might be vulnerable to the right pitch. You're not worried I'll cooperate with her? Are you going to? Lena thought about it, really thought about it. Torres represented the law, order, the idea that justice could be clean and absolute. But Lena had lived in the real world long enough to know justice was rarely clean. Systems failed people all the time. Sometimes the only way to survive was to exist outside those systems, to make choices that looked wrong on paper but felt necessary in practice. No, she said finally, I'm not going to cooperate with her. Why not? Because she wants simple answers to complicated questions. She wants you to be a villain so she can be a hero, and life doesn't work that way. Lena turned to face him fully. You're not purely good, but you're not purely evil either. You're just a person making choices in impossible circumstances. And maybe that's not legally defensible, but it's human. Something in Adrian's expression cracked. You're defending me. I'm acknowledging reality. She took his hand. I don't agree with everything you do. I don't think violence is always the answer, but I also don't think turning you over to the FBI would make the world better. It would just create a power vacuum that someone worse would fill. That's a very pragmatic view. I'm a pragmatic person. Comes from years of surviving on tips and hope. She squeezed his hand. So here's what I need from you. Complete honesty. No more surprises, no more discoveries that you've been watching me or testing me. If we're doing this, really doing this, then we're partners. Equal information, equal say. You want transparency in a world built on secrets. I want trust. Real trust. Not the conditional kind where you tell me what you think I can handle. She held his gaze. Can you give me that? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I can try. It goes against every instinct I've developed, but for you, I can try. That's all I'm asking. He pulled her close, and Lena let herself lean into him, let herself believe that maybe they could actually make this work, despite all the reasons they shouldn't. The Korean meeting is tomorrow, Adrian said against her hair. Margot's finalized the terms. Neutral location, mediators present. If they agree, we have peace. If not, we deal with it together. Together, he agreed. The meeting was set for noon at a hotel conference room downtown. Neutral ground, public enough to discourage violence, private enough for honest negotiation. Lena spent the morning reviewing Margot's proposed terms. Territory boundaries, non-aggression clauses, dispute resolution protocols. It read like an international treaty, which in a way it was. Two sovereign powers agreeing to coexist without destroying each other. Vincent had security positioned throughout the hotel. Not obvious, but present. Insurance, in case diplomacy failed. The Koreans arrived exactly on time. 6 people, led by a woman in her 60s who introduced herself as Sun-hee Park. Her English was flawless, her demeanor calm and assessing. Mr. Vescari, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Ms. Park, thank you for coming. Adrian's formality was perfect, no hint of the violence that had characterized their previous encounters. Shall we begin? They took seats on opposite sides of a long table. Margot and one of Sun-hee's advisors sat at the head, acting as mediators. The terms as proposed are acceptable in principle, Sun-hee said without preamble. But we have concerns about enforcement. How do we guarantee both parties honor the boundaries? Joint Oversight Committee, Margot suggested, representatives from both organizations, meeting quarterly to address concerns before they escalate. That requires trust we don't currently have. Sun-hee's gaze was steady. Your organization recently lost 2 senior members under violent circumstances. Ours lost equipment and personnel. The history between us is not conducive to cooperation. Which is exactly why we need formal structures, Adrian countered. Personal trust takes time. Legal frameworks create accountability immediately. Sun-hee nodded slowly. You're not what I expected, Mr. Vescari. Your reputation suggested someone more traditional. I'm trying to be less traditional. It's not always successful. A slight smile crossed Sun Hee's face. Evolution is difficult in our industries. Too many people profit from chaos to allow easy change. But not impossible. No, not impossible. She glanced at her advisors, some unspoken communication passing between them. We accept the proposed terms with one addition. Any violence between our organizations triggers immediate investigation by the Oversight Committee. Guilty parties face agreed-upon consequences. What kind of consequences? Territory concessions, financial penalties, or in extreme cases, leadership removal. Sun Hee's tone was calm, but the threat was clear. This ensures both sides have incentive to control their people. Adrian looked at Margot, who nodded fractionally. It was a reasonable addition, actually strengthened the framework. Agreed, Adrian said with reciprocal terms. Both sides subject to the same standards. Of course. They spent the next 2 hours hammering out details. Lena took notes, watched the dynamics, saw something surprising emerge. These weren't enemies negotiating surrender. They were professionals finding common ground, recognizing that sustainable peace served both their interests better than constant warfare. By 2 p.m., they had a signed agreement. Formal, binding, with mechanisms for enforcement and dispute resolution. Sun Hee stood, extended her hand. I hope this is the beginning of a more constructive relationship. Adrian shook it. As do I. When the Koreans left, the tension in the room dissolved. We did it, Margot said, something like wonder in her voice. We actually achieved a diplomatic resolution. Don't sound so surprised, Adrian said, but he was smiling. Lena's idea was solid. It was necessary, Lena corrected. War was expensive and dangerous. Peace is cheaper and smarter. Vincent appeared in the doorway. All clear. They're gone. No incidents. Good. Adrian turned to his team. I want this formalized immediately. Legal documentation, copies to all relevant parties, implementation of the Oversight Committee within the week. People mobilized, energy shifting from tense negotiation to productive action. Adrian pulled Lena aside. We should celebrate. Celebrate? We just prevented a war. That deserves recognition. He glanced at his watch. Dinner tonight, somewhere nice. Just us. Is this a date or a business meeting? Does it have to be one or the other? Fair point. They ended up at the same restaurant from weeks ago. The quiet place in River North with the kind host and no sign outside. Rosa greeted them like old friends. Mr. Viscari, Miss Carter. So good to see you both. Your usual table? Please. The wine was the same too. Rich, red, probably expensive. Lena was starting to develop a taste for it. To peace, Adrian said, raising his glass. To peace, Lena echoed. They drank, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of constant threat lifted slightly. I talked to Torres, Lena said abruptly. Adrian set down his glass. I know. I need to tell you what happened, what she said. Lena took a breath. She tried to recruit me. Showed me files of people hurt by your organization, said I could help stop you, make things right. And what did you say? That I'd think about it. Then I went home and actually thought about it. She met his eyes. She's not wrong, Adrian. Your organization has hurt people. Even with your reforms, even with legitimacy as the goal, there's still damage being done. I know. So how do you live with that? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. By believing the alternative is worse. If I stepped away, if I let the organization collapse or get taken over by people like Marco, the violence would increase exponentially. So I stay. I push for change. I make incremental progress while knowing it's not enough. Will never be enough, but is still better than nothing. That's a heavy burden. It's the burden I inherited. I can carry it with purpose, or I can abandon it and let others suffer the consequences. Those are the options. He reached across the table, took her hand. But I'm not asking you to carry it with me. If this is too much, if the moral weight is crushing you, I will understand if you need to walk away. Lena thought about Agent Torres, about the clean simplicity of right and wrong she represented. Then she thought about the real world, the one where people made impossible choices in difficult circumstances, where good and evil weren't absolutes but sliding scales everyone navigated differently. I'm not walking away, she said. But I need you to keep trying. Keep pushing for legitimate operations, for reducing harm, for making things genuinely better. Because the moment you stop trying, the moment you accept that violence is just the cost of doing business, that's when I walk. Deal. Adrian's grip tightened. I promise to keep trying if you promise to keep pushing me, keep questioning, keep demanding better. You're my conscience, Lena. Don't let me forget that. Your conscience with the body count. Everyone's got contradictions. They finished dinner, talked about everything except business. Books, movies, childhood memories that shaped who they'd become. It felt normal, almost, like two regular people on a regular date. When they left, Vincent was waiting with the car, but Adrian waved him off. We'll walk. Chicago at night was beautiful when you weren't running from violence. Lights reflected off the river. People moved with purpose or leisure. The city hummed with energy that felt vibrant rather than threatening. I want to show you something, Adrian said. He led her to a building under construction near the waterfront. Security was light, one guard who recognized Adrian and waved them through. They took a freight elevator to the top floor, still unfinished, open to the elements. This is going to be the headquarters for my legitimate operations, Adrian said, gesturing at the skeletal structure around them. Shipping, logistics, real estate development. Everything legal, everything clean. Construction finishes in 6 months. It's ambitious. It's necessary. He moved to the edge where the wall would eventually be, looking out over the city. This is what I want to build, Lena. Not an empire of fear, but an actual business that employs people, contributes to the economy, exists in daylight instead of shadows. And the other parts? The protection, the gambling, the gray areas? Phased out over time. As the legitimate operations grow, the illegal ones shrink. In 5 years, maybe less, I want to be completely clean. He turned to her. That's the goal. That's what I'm fighting for. Lena joined him at the edge. The city spread out below like possibilities waiting to be claimed. What happens to the people who depend on the old ways? The ones who won't adapt? They find other opportunities or they leave. I can't force evolution, but I can incentivize it. Better pay in legal operations, retirement packages for those who want out, education support for people willing to retrain. He paused. It won't be perfect. Some people will fall through the cracks, but it's better than maintaining the status quo. You've really thought this through. I've had years to think about it. Just needed the right circumstances and the right person to make me believe it was possible. Don't put that on me. I'm just your assistant. You're so much more than that. Adrian turned to face her fully. You're the reason I think any of this can work. Because you see me, really see me, and haven't run. You've questioned, pushed back, demanded better. But you've also stayed. That means something. It means I'm either very brave or very stupid. Can it be both? Lena laughed despite herself. Apparently that's our thing, contradictions. Speaking of which, Adrian reached into his jacket, pulled out a small box. This is either wildly inappropriate or perfect timing. I genuinely can't tell. Lena's heart stopped. Adrian, if that's what I think it is, it's not a ring. I'm not that presumptuous. He opened the box. Inside was a key on a simple chain. It's a key to this building. When it's finished, when the legitimate operations are running, I want you there, not as my assistant, as my partner. Equal say, equal stake, equal authority. You're offering me a business partnership. I'm offering you a future, one where we build something together, something that lasts, something we can be proud of. He took the key out, held it up. No pressure, no timeline, just an open invitation to be part of what comes next. Lena took the key, felt the weight of it in her palm. This was real, not just romance or attraction or trauma bonding. This was Adrian offering her actual partnership, actual power, actual choice in how their shared future unfolded. Yes, she said. Yes? Yes, I want to be your partner. In business, in life, in whatever comes next. She slipped the key onto the chain, fastened it around her neck. But I have conditions. Of course you do. Complete transparency moving forward. No more secrets, no more testing, no more surveillance I don't know about. We're in this together or we're not in it at all. Agreed. And if you backslide, if you start reverting to the old ways, prioritizing violence over progress, I call you on it, publicly if necessary. I wouldn't expect anything less. And Lena took a breath. I get to decide my own relationship with law enforcement. If Torres contacts me again, I handle it my way. No interference from you or Vincent or anyone else. Adrian hesitated on that one. That's a lot of trust. That's the point. Trust goes both ways. He nodded slowly. Okay. You handle Torres however you see fit. I trust your judgment. Even if my judgment is to cooperate with her? Even then. Though I'd appreciate a heads up before you testify against me. Deal. The absurdity of it, negotiating the terms of their relationship while standing in an unfinished building discussing FBI cooperation, finally hit them both. They started laughing, the sound echoing off exposed concrete and steel beams. We're insane, Lena said. Completely. Adrian pulled her close. But at least we're insane together. This time when he kissed her, there was no urgency, no fear, no shadow of violence, just certainty and warmth and the promise of something that might actually last. When they finally pulled apart, the city lights seemed brighter somehow. They spent the next 3 months building. Adrian's legitimate operations expanded rapidly. The Thompson acquisition integrated smoothly, generating real revenue without the shadow of criminal activity. The shipping company added routes, hired employees, became an actual business rather than a front. The Korean peace held. The oversight committee met monthly, addressed small disputes before they could escalate, created channels for communication that prevented misunderstandings from becoming conflicts. David Chen pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges, received a reduced sentence for cooperation. He'd served 5 years, out in 3 with good behavior. His testimony helped shut down several illegal operations, but carefully avoided anything that would directly implicate Adrian in criminal activity. Margot's legal strategy had been thorough, and Lena became indispensable. Not just to Adrian, but to the entire organization's transformation. She coordinated the legitimate operations logistics, managed the transition of personnel from illegal to legal work, became the bridge between Adrian's vision and practical implementation. Her sessions with Dr. Chen helped process the trauma, helped her understand that carrying guilt didn't require being crushed by it. The nightmares decreased. The hypervigilance faded. She learned to live with what she'd done, accepting it as part of her story without letting it define her completely. Agent Torres contacted her twice more, once with another recruitment pitch, once with a simple question, "Are you sure about this?" Lena's answer both times was the same, yes. She wasn't naive. She knew Adrian's organization still had illegal elements, still operated in gray areas that wouldn't survive legal scrutiny. But she also saw the genuine progress, the protection rackets being phased out, the illegal gambling operations shut down, the money laundering replaced with actual investments. Change was slow, messy, imperfect, but it was real. 6 months after the warehouse incident, the new building was finished. The grand opening was a formal event. City officials, business partners, media coverage. Adrian gave a speech about economic development and job creation. He wore an expensive suit and smiled for cameras and looked every inch the legitimate businessman he was becoming. Lena stood beside him, no longer his assistant, but his partner in every sense that mattered. Her title was Chief Operating Officer of Viscari Enterprises. Her responsibility was transforming Adrian's vision into sustainable reality. After the speeches, after the ribbon cutting, after the officials and reporters left, Adrian pulled her aside. "We did it," he said. "Actually, did it. It's a beginning, not an ending. Best kind of success, the kind that leads to more work." He looked around the gleaming office space, the legitimate business they'd built together. "Thank you for believing in this, for believing in me. Thank you for being worth believing in." That evening, they had a private celebration at the penthouse. Just the core team, Vincent, Margot, Eli, Michael, and a few others who'd been instrumental in the transition. "To new beginnings," Margot said, raising her glass. "To surviving long enough to see them," Vincent added. They drank, they laughed, they told stories about the chaos they'd navigated to reach this moment. Later, after everyone had left, Lena and Adrian stood by the windows overlooking Chicago. "I have something for you," Adrian said. This time, he actually pulled out a ring box. Lena's breath caught. "Adrian, before you panic, let me explain." He opened the box. Inside was a simple platinum band, elegant and understated. "I'm not asking you to marry me right now. I'm asking if you'd be willing to marry me eventually, when we've built something stable enough to support forever, when we've proven this can work long term. That's the strangest proposal I've ever heard. We're strange people in strange circumstances. Seems fitting. He took out the ring, held it up. This is a promise, Lena. A promise that I see a future with you. A promise that I'm committed to building something that lasts. A promise that you're not just my partner in business, but in life. Lena looked at the ring, at Adrian, at the city spread out below them. She thought about the night they'd met in the rain, about the warehouse and Marco's death, about Agent Torres and impossible choices and the slow, messy work of building something better from broken pieces. Yes, she said, eventually, when we've earned it. When we've earned it, Adrian agreed. He slipped the ring onto her finger. No timeline, no pressure, just possibility. I can live with possibility. They stood together in the penthouse, two imperfect people who'd found each other in chaos and chosen to build something better. The road ahead wasn't clear, wasn't guaranteed, wasn't without risk, but for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt like something to move toward rather than something to survive. 3 years later, they married in a small ceremony with minimal fanfare. Viscari Enterprises had become one of Chicago's major logistics companies, completely legitimate, employing over 500 people. The illegal operations had been fully phased out, replaced with real businesses generating real value. Agent Torres attended the wedding, having closed her investigation after determining that Adrian's organization had genuinely transformed. She and Lena had developed an unlikely friendship built on mutual respect and the recognition that justice wasn't always simple. Vincent served as best man. Margot officiated. Eli handled tech support for the live stream that Adrian's extended family watched from various locations. The vows were simple, honest, full of acknowledgement that marriage, like everything else in their lives, would be complicated, imperfect, and worth the effort. 5 years after that, they launched the Viscari Foundation, focused on economic development in underserved communities. The foundation provided job training, small business loans, and educational support. All the things Adrian wished had been available when he was trying to transform his organization, now offered to others seeking legitimate paths forward. Lena ran the foundation. It was, she reflected, the fullest expression of the work they'd been doing all along, taking broken systems and building better ones, offering people choices beyond desperation and survival. On the foundation's first anniversary, a young woman came to their office seeking help. She was 23, working 3 jobs, barely staying afloat. She reminded Lena viscerally of herself 8 years ago, exhausted, hopeful, looking for any opportunity that might lead somewhere better. "Tell me what you need," Lena said. The woman explained her situation. Lena listened, took notes, saw the reflection of her younger self in every word. When the woman finished, Lena smiled. "I think we can help you. Let me tell you about some opportunities." Later that night, lying in bed beside Adrian in the home they'd built together, Lena thought about paths and choices and the strange ways life unfolded. She'd killed a man to save the person she loved. That fact would never change, would always be part of her story. But it wasn't the whole story. It wasn't even the most important part. The important part was what came after, the choice to build rather than destroy, to create rather than abandon, to believe that people could change, and systems could improve, and love could exist even in complicated circumstances. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian murmured, half asleep. "That I'm glad I ran into you in the rain that night. Best accident of my life." "Mine too." They fell asleep together, two people who'd taken impossible circumstances and built something lasting, something real, something that proved redemption wasn't about erasing the past, but about choosing the future worth fighting for. The city outside